Good morning. Good morning, class. Today we'll be discussing the concept of telling the truth and when one is allowed to lie. So we have a concept in Pirkei Avos that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says Al Shosha Dvarim Hayolam Kayim. Now, three things the world is established: Al Din, Val Emes, Val Shalom. So we see that Emes is a very important part of Judaism. So today we'll be discussing the aspects of how one must go for MS, and when can one lie? So we start off in the Parsha of Shemos, Perek Gimel Pasuk Zayin. When it starts off, the pasuk says Midvar Sheker Tirchak, that we say that one may not lie. So over here, it's already establishing in the Torah that lying is very bad. So we'll go to a prime example now of how telling the truth is so important no matter what you're doing. So we have a story with our Safra in Gemara Makos Daf Chav Daled Aleph. Rav Safra says B'She'altos D'Rav Acha. Right, it starts off the Raven starts off like that. V'Hacha Hava Avoda D'Rav Safra Haya Lo Chavetz Echad Limkor Uba Adam Echad Lifnei B'Shah Shahaya Korah Krishma. Right, so Rav Safra was selling an object, and someone came to buy it while Rav Safra was saying Kriyat Shema. V'Amar Lo Tein Li HaChavetz B'Kach Damim. And the person said to Rav Safra, give me this chavetz, this object, and I'll give you this money. And then V'lo Anu, and Rav Safra didn't answer. Because Rav Safra was saying Kriyat Shema, and you're not supposed to talk during Kriyat Shema. K'savar zeh shelo haya rotze litnu b'damim halu hosif amar tanu li b'kach yoser. So the person thought that Rav Safra really didn't want to sell the object. So he kept giving more, like saying he'd give him 50, 100, 120. He'd give him more money, right? So after Lachar Sheisayim Kriyat Shema, after Rav Safra finished Kriyat Shema, Amrlo tol achavetz b'damim shamaris b'rishona. Rav Safra said, "I'll give you the chavetz, the object, with the money, with the offer you offered me when you first walked in, right? So sheba osan damim haya daisi litzei, because in the beginning when I was saying Kriyat Shema, I already agreed to the price. So this shows that like even though like Rav Safra could have got like 3 times as much money as the original price, since he already thought, oh, that's a fair price in the beginning, he didn't change it, which is a prime example of how one should do MS. Oh, so we see that Rav Safra is very good at keeping to his word. So another source where Rav Safra still kept to his word and didn't change it is in Chulin Tzadi Daled Amud Beis. So Rav Safra Haya Ka also Leschira Pagu Arali Hu Savar Pagu Ahar Dahihu. So Rava and Safra were walking in the road, and they met their Rav Mar Zutra. Who Savar Lafui Hu Dekaso Amrlu Lama Luhu Lurabanan the Tarche the Asu Kuli Hai. So Mar Zutra thought that they came out all this way just to speak, just to eat him. So we said, you guys don't all have to come. You didn't have to bother yourselves to come and see me. So Safra answers back and he says, Amarlu. Amar Safra anan lo hayadinan kasi mar vi hava yadinan tfei hava tarachinan. So Safra replies and says that we really didn't know that you were going to be here. But if we did know, we would have made extra effort. Amarle Rava, my time Amras lay. So Rava is saying that to Rav Safra that why'd you say this? That you could have just made his day by us traveling all the way out. You could have made his day instead of you ruined his day. So because Rava is saying he's really tricking himself. You're not really lying to him. He's really doing it to himself. So so he's saying no. Rav Safra holds that he means that making him think it's not true, it's still lying. So this is a good nafkamina between their two opinions. That Rav Safra is saying that no, straight. You have to be totally straight with the person, not even give him a hint of doubt of what you're doing, like to try to trick him. And Rava says no, if you don't technically lie, you and he's just thinking what's not really true. That's not considered lying. A similar case to telling the truth is in the Gemara in Ksubis, Daf Yud Zayin. Taner Rabbanon, Ketzad Merakdim Lifnei Hakala, Beis Shammai Omrim Kala Kamoshehi, Ubeis Hillel Omrim Kala Na'al V'Chasuda. So it's a classic case of Beis Hillel Beis Shammai that Beis Shammai says that when you're like dancing in front of the Kala, you're not allowed to say like she's beautiful when she's not. Beis Hillel says no, you say that she's beautiful. So Amr Lahem Beis Shammai lo Beis Hillel. So Beis Shammai is asking Beis Hillel, Hare Shahaisa Chagigis O Suma. Let's say she's like missing a limb or she is blind. Amrina Lay Kala Na Chasuda. How can you say that she's a Kala Na Chasuda? She's pretty and she's very nice. Amra Midbar Sheker Tircha. So Beis Shammai brings a good point. He's saying that's complete lying. Amr Lahem Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. So Beis Hillel is replying back to Beis Shammai. L'devrechem mi shelakach mechach ra min hashuk yishbarchu beinav o yigaenu beinav havamar yishbechenu beinav. Right. So Beis Hillel replies by saying that in a case if somebody buys an object in a marketplace, and he asks you, oh, what do you think about this? You're not supposed to say, oh, it's ugly, it's stupid. Why'd you waste your money on that? You're supposed to say, no, it's a nice object. No matter what, you're supposed to lie to him. So too here in this case, he's like per se buying a wife. So you're not supposed to say he made a bad purchase. You're supposed to make his day and say that, oh, your wife is beautiful, and tell her that, especially her, that it's her day also. Tell her that she's beautiful. So. Alright, so with the help of the Ritva's explanation of Beis Hillel and Shammai, we could connect Beis Shammai to Rava and Beis Hillel to Rav Safra. How? Beis Hillel says that the only time you're allowed to lie is because of Darkei Shalom. Same thing by Rav Safra. Rav Safra is saying that you're not allowed to lie ever, not even to trick somebody, like a little bit. So in this case, Rav Safra would say that, oh, since we have a heter of being allowed to lie, so you just totally lie. Just lie your face off. Just lie and like tell that she's always she's totally beautiful when really she isn't. And you can also compare Beis Shammai to Rava in the sense that Beis Shammai says that only highlights specific aspects, and Rava says that you're always allowed to trick the person in making them believe what isn't really. Meaning you're allowed to trick them to thinking that they're beautiful even though you really don't think so. So here too, Rava would say here that oh, you have a heter of lying, but we should still do it in the best way, kind of like what Beis Shammai said by saying her eyes are beautiful, let's just say. By you saying her eyes are beautiful, she might think, oh, he also thinks everything else is beautiful. He's just highlighting one attribute he loves about me. So Rava really connects. Rava's connected to Beis Shammai in the sense that He's not trying to full on lie, even though he has the heter of Darkei Shalom to protect him.
All right, guys. So now we're going to go on to part 2 of our shir, which is the practical applications that we have just spoken about. So we're going to start with the Gemara in Yevamos, Daf Samach Hayam Beis, which starts out, the Gemara gave a list of the things that Rav Ilai, Mishum Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon said. So this is the third thing that he said. The Gemara starts, V'amar Rabbi Ilai Mishum Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, Mutar lo la'adam l'shanos b'davar hashalom. A person is allowed to change his words for peace. Shenamar, Avicha tziva v'gomer, ko somer li Yosef, ana sana v'gomer. So, when the brothers came to Yosef, they thought that Yosef was going to take revenge for what they did to him, and when they sold him down to Mitzrayim after their father died. So after their father died, they told Yosef that Yaakov said that he has to leave them alone and be kind to them, when Yaakov in truth did not. Rabbi Nassan Omer, so Rabbi Nassan says, mitzvah. No, it's actually a mitzvah. It's not mutter to change your words for peace. It is actually a mitzvah. Shenemar, Vayomer Shmuel ich elech v'shama Shaul v'hargenu v'gomer. Right? A second example is in Tanakh is that Shmuel was supposed to go anoint David as king, but he told Hashem that if Shaul saw him going to anoint David as king, then he would have Shmuel killed. So therefore Hashem told him, if Shaul sees you, go and tell him that you're bringing a karban. And in this case, you're lying. Devei Rabbi Shmuel Tana, Gadol HaShalom, peace is so big, She'av HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shinabo, right? That even Hashem changed the words. He even lied for peace. Demei Kara Ksiv Vadoni Zaken, V'levasov Ksiv Vani Zakanti. Because when it came down to Avram, when the Malachim came to Avram and Sarah and told them that they're going to have a baby, Sarah laughed and she said that my master Avram is too old, so how could we have a baby? And Hashem, when he was relaying the message over to Avram, he said that Sarah really said that I'm too old, so how could we have a kid? Right? That just doesn't make any sense. Fine, so we see that all these cases in the Gemara and Yevamos have to do that the reason why the person was allowed to lie was for peace. And the Das Zakenim, going on that third and final case with Avram in Parshas Vayera, Perek Yirches Pasuk Yud Gimel, he says that when the Malachim came to Sarah to tell her that she was going to have a baby, she laughed and she said, we can't have a child because, as Rashi points out, Sarah became a Nida, right? So clearly she was able to have a kid, but she said that Avram can't have a kid because he's way too old and he's incapable of having a child. And therefore Hashem deliberately lied when he told over and he relayed the message over to Avram, and he said that Sarah said that she couldn't have a child, and therefore how could it be that the Malachim said that they were going to have a child, because they clearly are incapable of having a child. So we see that the reason why Hashem was allowed to lie in the case of Avram and Sarah was for peace between Avram and Sarah. So we then go on to the Gemara in Bava Metzia, Daf Chaf Gimel Amud Beis, which goes on to explain 3 things that one is allowed to lie for. Right? So the Gemara says, Bahani tlas mili avidi rabbanan dimeshanu bimilahu. With these 3 things, the rabbi said that you are allowed to change your words. In other words, lie. B'miseches, bepuria, ubeushpiza. Right? With miseches, which Rashi explains is if someone asks you, can you, did you learn this such and such mesechta? You are allowed to lie and say, no, I didn't. Or if someone says, did you have, right? And Puria, Rashi says that if someone asks you, did you have Tashvish Amita, for the sake of tznius, you're allowed to lie and say, no, I did not. And the final one, Ushpiza, Rashi there comments and he says that if you stayed at somebody's house and you really liked it, then somebody else stays at somebody's house and he really liked it. So then a third guy comes and he says, well, did you like this guy's house? You are allowed to lie and say, no, this guy, his house, it was okay, but it wasn't like great. This way, everyone doesn't just like bombard him and say, oh, we want to stay at your house because like we heard your house is really awesome. And then the guy is just going to constantly he's not going to know what to do. He's going to be all bombarded and he's going to maybe lose money over it because putting all these people up. So therefore, for all these cases, you're allowed to lie. And all 3 of these cases have some aspect of shalom involved in them. For example, ushpiza, right? The case of the hospitality, it has shalom in it because this way you're causing shalom for the host. This way the guy doesn't have to deal with all this putting everyone up and everything. And puria when it comes to the tznius. So clearly that's shalom because if someone asks you if you had tashin hamita, like it may cause you to get a little angry, and then you may start a fight over it because like it's something that's very private and it's very tznius. And mesechta, there that has to do with shalom because if someone were to ask you if you learn such and such mesechta, so then, and you answered yes, so people might think, well, you're such a Baal Gaiva, and then that may start a fight as well. So now we're going to get on to actual practical applications, and we're going to start with the Gemara in Shavuos, Daf Lamed Amud Beis. So the Gemara presents many cases in court cases in which one is allowed to or not allowed to lie per se. And so the first case we're going to look at is the case where you have a judge or a witness who is a thief and you want to join with him because you know that their testimony is correct. But the problem is if you do this, then you are going to be tricking Beis Din by them. They are going to think that this thief who would normally be a pasul aid, you're going to make them think that this guy is really a kosher aid. So the Gemara says that in this case you cannot join with them. So this seems to be a proof, going back to the machlokas between Rava and Rav Safra. This seems to be a proof to Rav Safra because Rav Safra says that you can't lie, you can't trick someone, you can't have someone trick themselves and lie in that way. So in this case, if you don't say anything and you just let this thief testify or judge and you join with him, and then the testimony turns out to be correct, which you know it is, so then everything's going to be fine. But really, this guy was a thief and he's not a kosher aid. So by the fact that therefore we say that you can't join with him because that would be tricking the Beis Din into thinking that this guy is really a kosher aid. So the Gemara in Shavuos brings a second case where you have a student who's sitting before his Rebbe in a Beis Din, and they're judging a case of an ani against a rich person, where your Rebbe thinks that the ani is guilty and the rich person is innocent. So, but you know that that's not true. You know it's the other way around. So and we paskin in this case that you have to speak up and let your Rebbe know that he's wrong in this case. This way he gets the correct verdict. So this ties in exactly into the machlokas between Rava and Rav Safra, because this is exactly what Rav Safra did. When Mar Zutra said you guys did that Rava and Rav Safra didn't have to come all the way just to greet him, he corrected his Rebbe, which is exactly what you have to do in this case. So therefore, just like Rav Safra corrected his Rebbe into making the right verdict and not tricking his Rebbe and not having his Rebbe trick himself, so too in this case, Kal V'chomer, the student would have to not have his Rebbe trick himself by making the wrong verdict and the student not saying anything, and he would have to speak up and tell the Rebbe that he has to say tell the Rebbe the correct verdict, which is a very big proof to Rav Safra. So the Gemara in Shavuos then brings a third case down. The Gemara says that it brings a case where you know that your Rebbe usually tells the truth, and he says that he's owed $100, but he only has one aid, and he wants you to be the second aid. This way he would be able to obtain the money. So the Gemara says that in this case, you can't join with this second aid. So the reason for this would presumably be because if you were to join in with the aid, then you would be tricking Beis Din into thinking that your Rebbe actually has two good aidim when he really doesn't, because you didn't see it and you really don't know. You're just going based on the assumption that since your Rebbe usually tells the truth, so therefore he's probably telling the truth now, which is a proof to Rav Safra, because Rav Safra says that you have to be the one. You yourself have to know for sure that what you're saying is the truth, and that you can't trick somebody else into thinking what is not true, that would be lying, and that is completely usher. So too, just like in this case, you can't trick Beis Din into thinking that your Rebbe really has two good Eidim, and when in truth he really doesn't. So the tour brings in some more practical applications. The tour in Choshen Mishpat, Reish Chav Ches, Seif Vav says, Asur l'ramos b'nei adam b'mekach u'b'memkar. It is usher to trick someone, a person, when it comes to buying and selling an object, o lignov daitam, or to do gnevas das, kagon im yesh mum b'mekcho, tarach leodio lilokeach. Right? For example, if the object has some sort of blemish in it, you have to tell the person who's buying it about this blemish. Va'afim hu gai lo yimkor lo basar nevela becheskas shehi shchuta. Right? And even if the guy is a guy, right? The Torah is bringing an example. Even if the guy's a guy, you can't tell him that you're selling him kosher meat when in reality the meat is nevela. Ve'af lignov das habrios bidvarim. Aser shemara lo she'osa b'shvilo ve'eno osa, and even to do gnevas das with words, it's aser to make the person to appear to be doing something for the person when in reality you're actually not really doing it for the person. Kigon shelo yisrahiv b'chavero sheyisod imo v'hu yodea bo she'eno soed. Right? For example, the Torah says that you can't invite your friend over to a meal if you know, right, that he's not going to end up coming, because, right, so the only reason you're inviting him is just to like trick the guy into making him feel like, oh, you really want him there, when you in reality you know that he's not going to end up coming, right? The Torah brings a second example. V'lo yarbelo bitak ruvos v'hu yodea she'eno mekabel. And also a second thing is you can't keep telling the guy and presenting him with gifts when you know that the guy isn't going to take it for the same exact reason. V'lo yiftach lo chavios hapsuchem lechanuni v'zeh sover shepischam b'shvilo ela tzarich leodio she'eno poscham b'shvilo aval b'stam aser kevan shechaveru sover shepascha b'shvilo. Right? And the next case is that if your friend comes over for a meal or something, you can't tell him that you're opening up this special package just for him, when in reality the package was already opened and you didn't really open it for him. You're just trying to make him feel good or whatever it is. There, in that case, we say it's usher because you're saying, because you're tricking the guy into thinking that really, oh, look, this guy's doing so much for me. He's opening up this great package for me, when in reality it was already open, or really you just wanted to open it for yourself. And this all ties back to our original machlokas between Rava and Rav Safra, where Rav Safra says that you are not allowed to have someone trick themselves. That is an isser of midvar sheker tirchak, or lying. And in these cases that the Torah breaks down, with the inviting a friend over when you know he's not going to come, or presenting him with gifts when you know he's not going to take it, or opening the package when you know and telling him that it's for him when in reality it's not really for him. All these cases are a big proof to Rav Safra, because Rav Safra is the one who says that you're not allowed to trick someone into thinking that you're not allowed to have someone trick themselves. That would be an isser of midvar sheker tirchak. So in all these cases, that's exactly what you're doing. And here we say that you're not allowed to do it. So therefore, it's a big proof to Rav Safra, and it's a proof against Rava, who says that you are allowed to trick someone. You're allowed to have someone trick themselves into thinking that what they're doing is right, or just having them trick themselves. So the Tzitz Eliezer brings a application that actually applies to nowadays, to doctors, because he says the question is that doctors nowadays, they write down their cases in some sort of journal. So the question that was brought to the Tzitz Eliezer is, can a doctor change the case of his patient to make it sound cooler or to make him sound a little better? And does it make a difference that the people who read this journal are mainly non-Jews? So the Tzitz Eliezer says that there is an Isser of Genevas Da'as, even to a guy. You're not allowed to lie to a guy because the Isser of lying has to do with you destroying your own neshama. And also, when it comes to the fact that it's in a journal, it doesn't make a difference whether you're saying the lie or you're writing it down, because bottom line, you're lying. You're the one who's lying, and it doesn't have to do with the what you're doing. It has to do with what you're doing. The fact that you're the one who's lying. Just like by the Tzitz Eliezer brings a proof that the Torah says that you're not allowed to curse a deaf person. So the question is, what's the difference? A deaf person can't hear you. He's not going to get offended. Nothing's going to happen. The problem is that you're destroying your own neshama by cursing the deaf person. So too, by lying, you're destroying your own neshama by not telling the truth. And we know that the world is built on or is established through MS. So by you not telling the truth, that just destroys your neshama and could ultimately destroy the world.
Bye!